Yo, what is good? So in today's video, we're going to be discussing VPS, and we've been asked a couple of times by people how would they set it up, and I did explain that it's going to be pretty much the same process. Now, I want to go across VPSs with you because they're going to get expensive for the use case that we need. Going to need pretty much a bigger hard drive than 120 gig because the game is that sort of size, and that's without adding any other maps. So we're going to need a package like this really, 240 gig, 8 gigabytes of RAM, 4 CPUs, virtual CPUs. So in the UK, that costs £30 a month, which is quite a lot. And the limitations of virtual hardware as opposed to dedicated hardware is it doesn't have a GPU, and you won't be able to open the game on that VPN, or you will be able to do VPS, sorry, you will be able to open it, but it's going to run very slowly and not be functional. So when you get your VPS, you're going to want a Windows one, and you get an option between which Windows server you would like to have. So we're going to go with Windows 22, and with that out all the way, so they're the kind of costs that you're going to accumulate with having your VPS for the use case that we're going to have. So what I've done is I'm running a virtual machine, which is essentially what you're going to be buying. It's got Windows Server 2022 installed. Now, I'll run you through the parameters that I've given this machine because it's simulating what the package we've just bought. So our hard drive is 250 gigabytes. We've got 8 gigabytes of RAM, and it's got 4 virtual CPU processors. So essentially that is what you're buying. Now, I'm not an expert in networking or servers, so I can only tell you how I would do it if I was to buy a VPS. And basically what you're going to need is the game installed into your VPS. So I had to download 100 gigabytes to get our game into our VPS. And it is here, you see. Now, I don't know about your VPS, but for this one, there was a couple of run errors. I couldn't run this before. First, I needed to get WebView 2, which you just go into Google and you just type in WebView 2 download. It might even be in our history. No, but basically, you just go WebView 2. And it's basically just something for Microsoft Edge. So you just download WebView 2, download. So that's the first error that we came into trying to run the game. The second error we got was x input 1 to 3.dll. So how you fix that issue is you just download the DLL and you drop it into the root of the game folder. So that now allows us to run H2M mod. I'm not going to run it because, like I said, it's not dedicated hardware and it's just going to make it very slow. And we don't actually need it open, but we did need to know that it runs. So everything's running now. This game can run, but obviously the hardware limitations, we're not going to run it, but the game does run. So with that out of the way, you're going to have your normal default folders. Obviously, I've already dragged mine across. So I'm going to keep the port the same for this instance. and I've kept everything standard stock because these things we've already got videos talking about it. So the host name for the server is VPS server. I've set the password as VPS server as well. I just want to check before I run into that. Yes, I did. VPS server. So I've set up the configuration file already. So we can close that now. So we've got our IW4 admin. We're going to extract it to the IW4. It's going to create a new folder for us. We're just going to run that and run anyway. For the sake of the video, I'm not going to enable the web front because we've covered how you do that. So if you want your web front, just put yes. No, 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 no. And it's going to be exactly the same process that we've done before. I will mention what you need to do before you do this. You will need to open up Windows Firewall and go into advanced settings and create an inbound rule again, otherwise it will fail. So I've just called my H2M server, but just to show you, I will put a new rule. It's a port rule, and it's going to be a UDP rule, and it's going to be 2716, the default port. Excuse me. So we've got that set. I've already done it, so I don't need to do it, but you need to do this before you run the admin thing or it will fail. So we're going to put no here. We're going to need to get our IP for this machine. So we're just going to run IP config. You could get it from server, but it's much more convenient. I'll just show you Windows, not that, not Windows, server manager. Oh, I'm doing that into my computer now, not into the server manager. I'll just show you quickly. So that's our IP address for this server. I've named my server gaming server. So we don't need that open because I just find it much more convenient to do it from the shell. And where's my PowerShell gone now? I can close that because I've already done the port. Let me just open the shell again. And we're going to do IP config. So this is going to give you the IP address for this server. And then we're just going to copy that again. And then we're going to paste that again. And then we're just going to enter our default port, which we've already opened. Recon password was VPS server, wasn't it? No. Now we need it to establish a connection. So as you can see, it's an established connection. So our server is up and running. And obviously, like I've said in previous videos, we needed to have our default server file running. So it was. So make sure you've got your server file running. And we're all set up. So what we can do now is we can go to my normal machine, but I'm gonna need to make a note of that IP. The trouble is, alright, let me get rid of that. Let me launch this game because that server is running now. So now I'm back to my normal PC. While that's doing that, I need to get power sharp. I don't think this is going to allow me to copy it in here and take it to my other computer because they're two separate computers essentially. So let's copy that and see if it allows us to do that back in my computer. If not, I'll just have to manually. I don't want that open. Don't want that open. So let's just connect to the new line. No, I was right. Yeah, so I can't do that because these are two different computers, so we can't share across. You won't have to do none of this because your virtual machine you'll be logged into, and it won't be hosted on the same computer. So I'm going to have to go back to our machine and just remember that 192.168.11.128. 192.168.11. What was the last bit? 1, 2. Let's just look so I'm not guessing. I did think it was 128. Okay, so 128. And then we're going to need that. And then we're going to have our port number. And then we're just going to go into our game. So my computer should be able to connect to this server now. And it has. So this isn't my server that was running on my game. This is the server that's running in the virtual machine.
Domination. Take no prisoners, comrades.
Why is that still me to my own? No, that hasn't. We're just going to exit again because I just want to make sure that that's not. That shouldn't be. I'm just making sure that didn't say owner.
Domination.
I know it's not my server because my playlist. No, it's just that saying welcome play. So yeah, we have connected successfully to the VPS server of that other machine now. And I can tell it's not my server because there's no bots running. So I'm the only person in there. So that is how you would successfully set it up for VPS. But like I say, the costs required to do so are quite large when you could do exactly the same thing, just running off your own connection. And most of these VPSs only come with a gigabit download speeds. I say only, obviously that's really good, but I have that as my personal speed anyway, and my laptop machine is way more powerful than the VPS, to the point my laptop is so powerful I can run the virtual machine and the game at the same time on the dedicated hardware that is my laptop. So they're the kind of things you got to think about if you do want a VPS. But we'll jump back into the VPS. So we don't need that. We don't need that. So like I say, in order to do this, I've just downloaded all the files from my own Google Drive. We've got our normal server files. We had the H2M mod that didn't actually download. Um, we've got our IW4 admin. That was the file to fix the audio, but we're not going to need that on our VPS because we're not actually going to be running the game. But I will show you that the game does actually run just very slowly, but we're not going to actually play the game, and I'll probably have to cancel out of it. What am I looking for? Our C drive, and here is our game. So as you can see, the game will actually launch, but because the hardware is so weak, it's really going to struggle to run it. And I'm probably going to have to cancel out because it just slows it all down. So as you can see, the game does actually run just really slowly because the virtual VPS just has very um, weak virtual hardware as such. It doesn't have a dedicated graphics card. But as you can see, we're in the game on our server. Um, so, like I say, I'm gonna quit out of this because you won't really need to enter the game on your server because you're going to be playing from another device anyway. So, like I say, the fixes that we had to do was we had to get web view because when I was trying to run the mod at first it was coming up with an error, so I had to download WebView 2 and then I pressed it again, and then I had to install, let me go to downloads. I had to install this, which is just a file. You unextract that, you then drag it into your Modern Warfare Remastered root folder, and then that allowed the game to run. Everything else in this was pretty much exactly the same. So that is how you set it up on a VPS. As you can see, our server is running and you just configure it to how you wanted it. I don't know why that window's gone blank, but it is running. So the only thing you might need to do is, I'm just thinking, on your VPS, the only thing you might actually have to do to enter the game is to claim ownership of your server. I should imagine. Let's just see if I can enter on my other computer. Let's see if I can claim ownership from a different account. So I'll leave the server running. I'm going to have to run the game again. We've still got our notepad file. So let's just see if I can claim ownership from a different computer to what our VPS is running the server on. So let's connect to that. So
Let's do
type
this.
to T command owner. So it does let you claim ownership from the different device. So you're not going to have to claim ownership from your own device. And then let's just see if it does all the other commands for us. T who. So then that's give us the code. So our client ID would be 2 for this server. And then if we do the command RT, that's our code to then get into the web front. So you can do that. So like I say, you're not going to need to run the other machine, the game on the other machine to be able to claim ownership. So it's good that I actually tested that just so it isn't an issue. So I think that's pretty much everything covered, isn't it? I think so. So I don't need the game open on that. So as I've shown, you can connect to the VPS server. Um, and that is pretty much the same as you'd need. You wouldn't be able to have a VPS with less than like 100 gigabyte hard drive because the game itself was, I can't remember, the game itself is a good 84, but that's before there's obviously going to be updates to the game. You're going to want maybe some other maps. So really you need at least 150 to 200 gigabyte hard drive. That's why I went for the 250 gigabyte one. Just because, oh, the other thing you have to have installed is Steam. You have to have Steam installed. Um, Outside of that, that was it. We've installed Steam. You had to install Runtime again. If I look in my box, it will show you everything that I had to have Windows 64 Runtime in order for IW4 admin to run. Um, Obviously, we used IW4M admin. Other than the web view and all these other things wasn't relevant. I had to get WinRAR as well, just so I could unzip this folder. Um, I had to have Qubit torrent to get the game files. And that was it. That was it. And like I say, that was a required fix, and the web view 2 was a required fix for the game to be able to run. So that is how I would do it. There may be other ways for you to do it, but personally, that's the most simplest way to do it. Like I say, our machine is running the 4-core package. You could drop this down to 2 cores and it would still run, but in order to get the higher hard drive size for your VPS, it came with 4 cores anyway, so I wanted to simulate the package that you'd kind of need. Could you run this on lower RAM? Yes, but the lower RAM models came with less hard drive space, and that's the thing that we need is the hard drive space. But that is essentially how you would set up your VPS. And like I say, it's essential to open the firewall port before you run IDWX for admin, or you'll get errors. But with that all said and done, hope you found this helpful. I will love you and leave you. Peace out.